It began as an ordinary drive, a long stretch of empty road, the kind where trees close in so tightly that the sky vanishes above you, the kind of silence that makes you roll the window down just to check if the world is still there. She had been driving for hours, the rain tapping harder against the windshield, her fuel gauge sinking lower. Then, without warning, the engine coughed, the lights flickered, and the car rolled to a stop. She tried the ignition once, twice, nothing. Dead. She glanced at her phone. No signal, only the mocking glare of searching for network. That was when she first felt it, the sensation of being watched. She stepped out, her boots crunching on wet gravel. The forest stretched endlessly in both directions. She told herself she would just walk, just find help, maybe a farmhouse or another driver. But every step deeper into the woods only thickened the silence. The trees groaned under the storm, their branches clawing at the sky, and once or twice, she swore she heard a whisper, not from behind her, not from ahead, but from the woods themselves, all around, like the forest was breathing. An hour passed before she saw it, a dim light, faint between the trunks. She pushed through brambles and mud until she stumbled upon a structure, half buried in the ground. A shelter, its metal door left ajar. The storm raged harder, and without another thought, she slipped inside. The air was thick with oil and dust. A lantern burned low, and three faces turned toward her, a woman with silver hair, her eyes sharp and knowing, a younger man, nervous, shifting on his feet, and another woman, her clothes damp, her expression hollow. None of them spoke at first, as if her arrival was something expected, inevitable. Finally, the older woman broke the silence. "Close the door, quickly." The stranger obeyed, though confusion knotted in her chest. When she turned back, the woman's voice dropped low. "You should not be here. Not after dark." It was then that she noticed the wall. At first she thought it was a mirror, but no, it was glass, thick and fogged. Beyond it, only blackness. But as her eyes adjusted, she saw them. Dozens of faint pinpricks of light lined up at the edge of the forest. Eyes watching and blinking. The man spoke then, his voice trembling. "They're called the Watchers. They wait for nightfall. They wait for us." The newcomer laughed nervously, shaking her head, thinking it must be a joke. But then one of the eyes blinked slowly, deliberately, and a shadow moved closer to the glass. Long fingers, pale and thin, pressed against the pane. The lantern flickered as if the creature's presence was enough to drain the air. The group fell silent. Even their breathing seemed forbidden. She backed away, her chest tight, but the silver-haired woman caught her arm. "Don't move, don't look away, and don't ever go outside." That was her first night in the coop. She learned the rules by heart. Never open the door after dusk, never enter the tunnels beneath the forest, and never, ever try to run. The Watchers would always find you. Days bled into nights. They survived on canned food stacked in the corner, rationed carefully. But the fear was constant. Every evening, as the sun sank, they stood before the glass wall, forced to look at the creatures that gathered outside. It was a ritual. The Watchers wanted to be seen, wanted their audience. And the moment you broke the pattern, the moment you refused to look, was the moment they took you. She began to notice things. Whispers in the daylight carried through the trees. Strange carvings etched into bark, spirals and runes older than language. And sometimes, when she stared too long into the woods, she thought she saw shapes moving, not human, but not animal either. On the fourth day, the younger man, Daniel, confessed. He had gone into the tunnels once. He had seen where the Watchers lived. His voice shook as he described the burrows, walls scratched with marks, piles of bones, and the sound of laughter echoing in the dark, though no one was there. He begged the others not to go down, not to even think about it, but his eyes betrayed him. Part of him was drawn to it, fascinated, as though the Watchers had planted the idea in his mind. That night, they came closer. The glass trembled under their touch. One of them pressed its face against the barrier, and for the first time, she saw it clearly. Its skin was gray and stretched thin, its mouth wide and unnatural, its eyes glowing faint like embers. But the worst part was its smile, as though it knew her, as though it had been waiting for her arrival all along. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the coop, every shift in the shadows made her heart race. She began to wonder if the others could be trusted. The hollow-eyed woman muttered in her sleep, calling out a name no one recognized. The older woman kept secrets, slipping away at dawn and returning with whispers of things she had seen. And Daniel seemed to change. His reflection in the lantern light moved strangely, to slow, as though it didn't belong to him. By the end of the week, paranoia filled the coop. The storm outside never ended. Supplies dwindled, and still, the watchers came. Always at night, always watching. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. She followed the older woman at dawn, deeper into the forest than she had ever dared. They came upon a clearing where the trees bent in unnatural shapes, forming an arch of twisted wood. Beneath it lay an opening, the mouth of a tunnel. The air seeping from it was cold, wrong, carrying with it the faint sound of laughter. The woman whispered, "This is where they were born. This is where they wait." Inside the burrows, the walls were etched with symbols. Old journals and broken tools littered the ground, signs of others who had come before. And deeper in, a chamber filled with mirrors, cracked, dusty mirrors, all reflecting her face. But in each reflection, something was different. Her eyes wrong, her smile too wide, her body not quite her own. She staggered back, gasping, as a shadow detached from the wall. A watcher, tall and thin, stepped closer, mimicking her movements exactly. Like a cruel reflection come to life. She fled, stumbling through the tunnels, the creature's laughter chasing her. When she burst into daylight, the others were waiting. But something had changed. Their eyes no longer held fear. They held hunger. And in that moment, she understood. The watchers didn't just mimic. They replaced, one by one. The people in the coop had been taken, their shells left behind. She wasn't among survivors. She was among them. That night, she stood at the glass again. But this time, when she looked out into the forest, she saw herself staring back, and as the lantern burned low, her own voice whispered from the darkness, "Welcome home."